Well, here's another controversial video. Well, I always say that. I always say my videos are controversial. And those videos that I say are controversial always end up being well received and well liked. So, however you receive this one is up to you guys. But this video is about the Ayatollah of rock and ruler, Y2J Chris Jericho. And what influenced this video was me just kind of sitting back and watching what he's involved in nowadays with Ryback. And you can just tell, based off of how it's booked, that they're more than likely going to use Chris Jericho to put over Ryback because Ryback's on a terrible losing streak when it comes to pay-per-views. And they're going to think, oh, well, we can fix that. Because if Ryback beats Chris Jericho, who's the first ever Undisputed Champion, who's the 9-time IC Champion, multiple-time Tag Team Champion, he'll look good as new and stuff like that. And I'm sorry for those who might think otherwise, but I think that's BS. You know, beating Chris Jericho nowadays, to me, means nothing. It doesn't revitalize your career. It doesn't do anything. You just beat Chris Jericho. And when I thought about that, I just started thinking about, how did we get here? How did we get to a point where beating Chris Jericho means nothing anymore? And let's be honest, it really does. And then I thought about it, and thought about it, and thought about it, and then the answer hit me. Because everybody beats Chris Jericho. Almost every new talent that's walked in through the doors of WWE for the last 5 years, Chris Jericho has been fed to. He's lost to them. I mean, when he first started doing it with Crime Time and Evan Bourne and Goldust and Daniel Bryan and all these other young talent when they first came in, it was cool because he was having good matches with them. But nowadays, he's just losing just to lose to them because they're young talent. It's like if someone new walks in and he confronts Chris Jericho, you're going to think, well, I guess that's the person Chris Jericho's losing to next. Seriously, it's gotten to a point now where anybody can beat him. And listen, I understand what Chris Jericho is doing. I understand why he's doing it, and I admire him for doing it. Chris Jericho's a legend. If he retires tomorrow, he's going into the Hall of Fame. For sure. He is a bona fide future Hall of Famer for, I don't know, the class of 2016, 2018, 2020. Whatever year he decides to retire, he is going into the Hall of Fame maybe the next year or something like that. He deserves that. He has had a tremendous career in the WWE. And I respect Chris Jericho for using his credibility, for using what he has established as himself to help establish new talent, to help the younger talent get up on their feet and actually rise up on the roster. Make them look good in the fans' eyes and for all the higher-ups in the back. I respect Chris Jericho for being that type of veteran because everyone knows the wrestling business could use more of those types of veterans. Someone that was popular back in the day coming back and making other people look good. But you look back on who Chris Jericho's been working with since, let's just go back to 2008. You look back on all these talents he's been working with and I'm sorry, but 90% of them, or at least 80% of them, he's worked with, but he's done nothing for their careers. There seems to be this weird philosophy to where all Chris Jericho has to do is lose to opponents and they're made into stars. That's a very flawed logic. In my opinion, you don't always have to lose to someone to make them a star. I mean, Stone Cold Steve Austin is a prime example of that when he fought Bret Hart at WrestleMania in their I Quit match, and he was bloodied and he pretty much passed out while he was in a sharpshooter. He lost that match, but he was made into a big time player because of it. The idea is to make them look good. It's to make them look credible. Let me ask you guys something. I'm going to name you some wrestlers that Chris Jericho has worked with, that he's actually lost to help put over. And I want you guys to tell me how many of those people that he actually put over. And I'm going to go back to like 2008 until now. I'm not going to go all the way back to 2005. No, that's too far away. From 2008 to 2013, I'm going to name you the people that he worked with, and put over. By the way, I'm not going to mention people like Taker, HBK, Triple H, Big Show, Cena, Orton, Edge, and Batista, because those guys, well, they're already established stars, and they were already established before they fought Chris Jericho. So, I mean, come on, Taker, HBK, Triple H, losing to them is not going to necessarily damage his career, because they're like future Hall of Famers like him. But here are the younger, newer talent that he's actually lost to put over. Alberto Del Rio, CM Punk, Curtis Axel, Heath Slater. Yes, he lost to Heath Slater on NXT. I remember that moment. Fandango this year at WrestleMania. Dolph Ziggler, Kofi Kingston, Jack Swagger, Wade Barrett, The Shield, Sheamus, John Morrison, Evan Bourne, R-Truth. He lost to R-Truth, guys. MVP, JTG from Crime Time. Some of y'all don't remember that in 2009 he had a feud with Crime Time when he was tag team champions with Big Show. Yeah, it didn't do well for JTG, did it? Necessarily. Mark Henry, Jeff Hardy, Matt Hardy, and Shelton Benjamin. Now look, you can name a handful of people. CM Punk, definitely. Curtis Axel's kind of too soon, but I think it actually helped Curtis Axel in my personal opinion. John Morrison, sure. Jeff Hardy, sure. But other than that, the rest of this list, Heath Slater, JTG. Again, I understand why he does what he does, but it starts getting to a point where we stop looking at the talent after they beat Chris Jericho and going, wow, you beat Chris Jericho? You are awesome, man. You beat him? You must be the shit. And then we start looking at Chris Jericho and going, you lost to him? Seriously? What the hell happened to you, man? You used to be something. Seriously, it's doing more damage to Chris Jericho than it's the other talent, and I think that's a problem. Because if we get to a point where Chris Jericho is losing to these people just to lose to them, to put them over, to make them look good, and then they don't become anything, and then they don't do anything, it makes Chris Jericho look bad. Especially if everybody is starting to beat Chris Jericho, then he's not special anymore. Listen, you can't lose to everybody. Look, I know you want to put everybody over, but here's a fact. Not everybody can be put over. You can have a great match with a great Khali, and I think Chris Jericho had a decent match with him in the past. But if that man can't get over by himself, even after he beats you or after you made him look good for that one night, it doesn't matter. That's not putting him over. Putting someone over doesn't necessarily mean you have to lose to them all the freaking time. Sometimes the best ways to put them over is to beat them. It's to make them look good in defeat. That's a way to put them over. There are numerous ways to put them over. In promo segments, in backstage segments, in other different venues besides losing to them in matches. And it also got me thinking of, does Chris Jericho have any say in who he's facing or what outcome his matches are going to be? Because, again, I don't know what the backstage stuff is with Chris Jericho. But I'm assuming he doesn't. Because I wouldn't think Chris Jericho would be losing to all these people. But if he is, Fandango, Great Khali, R-Truth, why are you working with people like this instead of a Cody Rhodes, a Damien Sandow? Damien Sandow versus a Chris Jericho. Come on now. He's worked with Kofi Kingston before, but he's never really had a feud with him. Why don't you have a feud with Kofi Kingston when he comes back? I don't care if you're the heel or if he's the heel or something like that. That'd be awesome. You know, work with Kofi Kingston to help put him over. Try Antonio Cesaro, try Curtis Axel. Work with these talents that actually have talent and who can get themselves over if they lose to you or if you lose to them. Because they have the talent to get over. So a feud with you would do nothing but enhance their career. You know what I'm saying? And also, one thing I'm noticing about Chris Jericho, he used to do this a lot, and this is what The Rock did with John Cena. He would lower his standards to make other people look good. Don't do that, man. Listen. Be as good as you can be and make these young talent work up to your level. If they can't, oh well. That's just an indication that they're not meant to be in the main event scene. They're meant to be mid-cards or something like that. Don't be losing to people just to make them look good and making yourself look bad. Because eventually, if the WWE, even if he is good, if the WWE doesn't do anything strong with them, they'll fall off and your loss to them has done nothing for them and hurt you more. And that is an ineffective way to put people over. I know what Chris Jericho's trying to do, but in my opinion, in the long run, it's doing more harm to him and less good for the people he's trying to put over. Seriously, because if everybody can beat Chris Jericho, where's the value in that? Beating Chris Jericho stops becoming a big deal and just becomes a standard, like beating Jerry the King Lawler. Everybody beats Jerry the King Lawler, but you had to be taken seriously. He's just being a standard for people to look at you as a wrestler. And Chris Jericho should be more than that. Again, this is not a rant on Chris Jericho, but I'm just telling it like it is. You know, Chris Jericho is one of my favorite wrestlers of all time. And to me, seeing him lose to wrestlers just to lose to them in some type of flawed way to put them over, it's not doing anything for him. It's not doing anything for them or him. And I just wish the WWE would get a more effective way of putting them over. Just because Chris Jericho loses to them doesn't always mean he's going to put them over. Same case with Ryback coming up. If Ryback beats Chris Jericho at Money in the Bank, it's not going to make Ryback any better. It really isn't. Especially after this Cryback gimmick. It really is at this point. So that's just my opinion of the matter. I mean, tell me how you guys feel about Chris Jericho putting people over by losing to them? Do you think it's effective? Do you think it's not effective? Do you think you should find another way to actually put people over? I mean, show me your thoughts down below in the comment section or make a video response to what you do. But your boy, Jerichos, man, has said all he wanted to say. Subscribe, follow me on Twitter, check out my Facebook, check out my second channel for Tribute Smash-Ups, check out my wrestling podcast, Wrestling Paradise, everything down below in the description box. And I'll catch you guys at my next video. Your boy, Jerichos, man, signing off. Pieces.